So we're here with, this is another one I sort of gifted, so I don't think all the smudges are my fault. It's kind of a series, I guess. I don't know, there's three of these. Start with From Dreams and Nightmares to Whispers of the Void, Matters and Mortality to Gods and Monsters. This book introduces sometimes disturbing and often beautiful artworks that indulge our greatest fears, uniting us as humans from century to century. Exploring and examining the artworks with thoughtful and evocative text, S. Elizabeth offers insight into each artist's influences and inspirations, asking what comfort can be found in facing our demons. Why are we tempted by fear and the grotesque? And what does it tell about the human mind? For the weirdos and freaks who doodled flying eyeballs and burning hearts in the margins of their school books instead of paying attention in class. We saw things differently, felt things deeply, and daydreamed darkly. This world of strangeness and beauty has always existed for us. In the beginning, what we are actually afraid of is that we are not. Lots tend to crowd in on us. Nothing better to do, potentially lurking in the shadows. And we stay positive. It's fine. It's fine. We're all fine here. But here's something else to think about. If we're eternally living in the light where it's always bright and happy, where we ignore or evade our distressing, uncomfortable feelings, then we are starved of shadows, of nuance and risk, an existence robbed of the richness of contrast. When we only validate our positive feelings, we vastly restrict our tools for looking at the world. We are neither dealing with reality as it is, nor adequately readying ourselves for random pains and struggles that life has in store for us. We deny our inner darkness at our own peril, because tragedies and calamities are inevitable, and darkness will descend at some point in your life, no matter what sort of mindset you have. Despite what you may have heard, good things don't only happen to good people, and bad things don't only happen to bad people. It's important that we experience in the body as a spectrum, as well, with many elements along its continuum worth exploring. James Turber wrote that there are two types of light: the glow that illuminates, the glare that obscures. I can't help but think of the obscuring glare here in terms of the phony light of that good vibes only doctrine. Perhaps we can instead confront our darkness straight on and head into it with the illuminating glow, courageous curiosity to guide us through our explorations. Who better to lift the lantern along our pathway than the artists have engraved with these impulses enough painted canvases awash in unpalatable feelings across the centuries. The themes and imagery presented in many of these works can be difficult to confront. Their beauty and truth lies in laying bare the universality of our struggles and allowing us a bit of distance for chaos. In the third panel chapters is a gallery of art. A Stygian kaleidoscope will traverse the realm of death and decay. While many of these works are visually stunning, these works of God It's all in your mind. Feels bizarre and flawed. At the same time, the modern monk and man of contradictions Thomas Merton, prolific poet, essayist, artist. It's no joke that creative people spend a lot of time in their heads, and it's easy to get lost there. If you have spent any time with a highly creative person, you've probably experienced moments when it seems like they live in a totally different world from yours, a completely different plane of reality. These dreamers' lives, observers, explorers, asking the big questions discover exhilaration and existential burning need to express. Their culture is to be believed in order to the Greek myth of Philoctetes. In the story, a man is exiled on an island as a result of a wound. While there, he invents the bow and arrow from scraps of material he finds in a cave, an invention which becomes an important weapon for the Greeks. Much like many artists, Philoctetes exists in the margins, and his wound, a symbol of his suffering, is the reason he is rejected from society. But it also has given him a kind of insight and is seen in the facilitator for his invention. We still don't have the full picture how the imaginative mind works. Research has suggested that creativity involves the coming together of a multitude of traits, behaviors, and social influences on a single person. And neuroscience paints a complicated picture of creativity, which is thought to involve a number of cognitive processes, neural pathways, emotions. Psychologically speaking, creative personality types are difficult to understand, largely because they're complex, paradoxical, and tend to avoid habit or routine. So perhaps a tortured artist isn't just a stereotype. Perhaps the brain of an artist is hardwired in a unique way. But the concept of turning one's pain into art is a tired old chestnut. And the tortured artist is a harmful myth. It suggests that these two states are mutually exclusive, an intensely disturbing notion for anyone who practices a creative craft. Let us then instead gaze upon these beautiful, bold, and sometimes baffling works of art with appreciation. Let us celebrate these masters of their craft, tormented by maladies of the body, mind, and spirit, and their capability to create great art despite their suffering, not because of it. So, remember the harrowing nocturnal visions that wrench you awake in the 2 a.m. gloom with a shudder and a sob. The visions of vivid and mordant splendor that render you terror-stricken, make your heart pound, and you pray desperately that the scenario you've just encountered while slumbering airs jangled and at the edge of your skin until the sky lightens. Or are you? In the following pages, we will explore the imagery of some of the dark, dangerous fantasies and mind-bending scenarios of these dreams and nightmares, as well as the artist's horror and macabre fantasy, fruitful and inexhaustible wellspring for human creativity and expression. Whenever we drift into sleep, we slip into a world saturated in fabulous and frightening fantasies of surreal creativity far beyond what our waking minds can conceive of. The shifting ciphers of these midnight riddles, possibly caused by random fears and desires. Ancient Greeks and Romans believed the same dream had different meanings depending on the early 19th nightmare moment awash in... Oh, no. I guess that was a different Fuseli one. In the shadows. The nightmare was first displayed at the annual Royal Academy exhibition in London in 1782. Future exhibits were typically the domain of categories, so popular that history and spec had a reproduction. Through use of symbols, seekers have looked to these theories and archetypes with far and beyond find meaning and purpose in their dreams, translating these logical musings into the visual language of brush strokes on canvas. As is why so many artists, from the symbolists to the surrealists, to contemporary creators today, turn their dreams and nightmares, exploring the warped shadows of that disruptive eeriness and unreality with the hopes of returning to wakefulness with greater symbolist arteries, monochromatic compositions, Redon's express sleep of reason produces known as La Caprichos, animals symbolizing evil and mystery in Spanish folklore swarm around the slumbering artist, and a vigilant lynx standing sentinel at the lower right alerts us to the monstrous forces we are unable to control when sleep takes us. The epigraph for the work contains a warning, a proclamation of Goya's adherence to the values of the Enlightenment. Imagination abandoned by reason produces impossible monsters. United with her, she is the mother of the arts, the source of wonders. Unlike those who had been received missives through these messengers while he slept, in this candlelit scene, French Baroque painter Georges de la Tour painted Saint Joseph being visited in a dream by an angel with a message. According to the New Testament, he was visited 4 times with various messages. It is not clear which visit is portrayed in this scene. Whatever game of holy telephone this messenger was playing, Joseph is a man who appears to be missing out on a solid night's sleep. This should, of course, be very familiar if you watch the Bosch videos. Gata Gecko was an artist best known as a painter and a designer of ukiyo-e prints. He was considered to be one of the most important ukiyo-e artists of the Meiji era and was among the earliest Japanese artists to win an international audience. He had developed his own artistic style, influenced by traditional painting, and his works are typically genre scenes from the everyday lives of people and reveal interesting insights into daily life in Japan at the turn of the century. In this intimate scene, we get a peek at Emperor Go-Daigo, whose efforts to overthrow the shogunate and restore the monarchy led to civil war and divided the imperial family into 2 rival factions. In this phantasmal image, the ghosts of 2 small children appear in a dream to advise the emperor. Well, it's kind of unfortunate framing that they're just kind of stuck in the margin there. One assumes from the calm and resolute atmosphere that this is with regard to military strategy. One hopes it's to suggest a peaceful resolution with less innocent bloodshed. So these appear to be more contemporary works. British artist Stephen Mackie comments wryly about his cryptic and creative persona. No information equals mystique. You can have any facts you want, but you're sworn to secrecy. Keep your secrets though, Mr. Mackie. Self-taught and inspired by the great French, Dutch, and Italian masters of the Renaissance, Mackie's works portray fantasy settings and the magic of imaginary worlds full of symbolism, both exciting and ambiguous, and feature gossamer beings in scenarios that feel as ethereal and elusive as a dream. In this scene of velvety textures, one senses that the sleeper may awaken at any moment, and this mysterious figure may never have been there at all. Contemporary British artist David Whitlam showed an interest in talent for drawing at a young age. While studying at graphic art at Leeds Metropolitan University, he developed a curiosity for surrealism and the workings of the unconscious, working in a variety of media, often combining traditional drawings and paintings with digital art. His goal is to tap into the desires and anxieties within the subconscious, allowing his images to evolve into their own identities, rather than attempting to capture reality. The imagery of a terrifying nocturnal visitation is no doubt a feeling that all I don't think you have to be a cat owner. Yeah, no. I think she's just putting a bit of her personal experience there. Although fuzzy paws are certainly preferable to the iron grip of the succubus, Fritz Schwimbeck was a German artist best known for his atmospheric, psychological pen and ink illustrations. Engrossing narrative prints and graphic drawings, Schwimbeck's many notable accomplishments include illustrations for art books, an edition of works by Arnold Strindberg, William Shakespeare, Edgar Allan Poe, and E.T.A. Hoffman. In John Everett Millais' nerve-wracking painting, The Somnambulist, we observe a barefoot young woman sleepwalking perilously close to the shadowy edge of a cliff. Her candle has been snuffed by the wind, which renders this nail-biting scene even more tense as she walks ahead in the moonlit darkness. Unaware of the danger close at hand, where is she going? What is she dreaming? Millais, an English painter and illustrator who was one of the founders of the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, was 41 years old, and at the height of his powers at the time, he painted this strange, sleepy drama. Kind of want to finish part one. Well, it should still be doable. When it comes to articulating our inner emotional landscapes, it's possible that painter Georgia O'Keeffe, who endured a nervous breakdown in 1933, put it best. I found I could say things with color and shapes, but I couldn't say any other way, things I had no words for. Much of human history, a creative expression has been a powerful means of communicating our dreams, visions, stories, and ideas and torments of the mind. Depression, anxiety, angst, grief, loneliness are no different. Mental illness has for centuries been linked in the popular imagination with extraordinary creativity and great works of art, while much in the history and treatment of madness has changed over time. One of the most consistent features has been the presence of the visual arts, and our speculation and cultural fascination with madness as a creative force. The celebration of emotion through art is not always of the champagne and roses variety. In this chapter, we'll visit works depicting psychological distress, desperate inner turmoil, and deeply scarring trauma. Is there a danger in glorifying art created to celebrate these works? I don't know. I kind of don't really like the angle she's approaching this from. What is the relationship between psychological state, the artistic impulse, and the creative process? What can artworks produced by people struggling with mental illness illuminate for us about artistic genius? Yeah. Influential modernist artist and celebrated painter Georgia O'Keeffe was best known for wild beauty and the abstractions of her large format paintings of flowers, paint life, and southwestern American landscapes. An ambitious, complex, and singular individual, she endured intensive nervous breakdown in the 30s, which led to hospitalization and caused that she set aside art for more than a year. In the jagged shadows and sky torn asunder of black place too, we can imagine the sorrows of the mental health challenge. Yeah. Louise Wayne was an English artist whose widely fanciful kaleidoscopic drawings anthropomorphized large-eyed cats grinning and winking, whining and dining, captured the Edwardian imagination. Later in life, he was confined to mental institutions and was alleged to have suffered from schizophrenia. Never officially diagnosed, many believe that he suffered from this condition, and some have argued that his later drawings demonstrate his psychotic deterioration. Expressions of his cat seem to reflect the emotions felt by the artist, ranging from a sort of personified dismay to a full-blown florid freakout. Wayne's intense personality, adroit observations, and lifelong battle with mental illness coalesced in an iconic body of work that reflects the comedies, tragedies, and absurdities of society and continues to generate interest to this day. Filled with melancholy solitude, the mysterious atmospheric paintings of self-taught Belgian artist of nocturnes, Leon Spiliart, captured the diffuse glow of streetlights, dampness of pavements, or moonlight over the dark, brooding sea. Due to his health problems, Spiliart suffered from insomnia, and as a means of distraction from his sleepiness, existential worries, and physical ailments, he strolled through empty streets and along the deserted promenade of his hometown late at night. Upon returning from these walks, he would create works from memory in the dead of night, bringing to life the moody stillness of the town in the wee hours. Still living with his parents and continuing to suffer from ill health, these unnerving reflections suggest an unsteady and unsettled. I kind of feel like she's doing the exact thing she was complaining about, people putting these, the tortured artist trope. Tracey Emin is a British artist known for intimate, confessional, and boundary-pushing works that mine autobiographical details through a variety of media, including painting, drawing, photography, video, sculpture, and neon text. Emotional distress is a long-running theme in Emmons' art. She cites Munch as an early inspiration for expressive style of self-representation. A link that lies in a shared commitment to revealing unfiltered mental suffering, Emmons' case often linked to deeply traumatic experiences of depression and grief. Munch's youth was scored by tragedy. Both his mother and favorite sister died of tuberculosis. Guess that means he has more than one. That's kind of that'd be kind of an interesting thing to be known as. Oh, you're the least favorite sister that survived. That oh no, that's kind of interesting. Another sister was diagnosed with mental illness, and the artist himself was often sick, subject to bouts of fever and bronchitis. I inherited two of mankind's most frightful enemies, Munch later wrote, the heritage of consumption and insanity. These anxieties suffused Munch's work throughout his early years. He repeatedly returned to particular themes, reworking and repainting favorite motifs until old age. Less well known than his more famous iterations, Anxiety presents viewers with a despairing sense of abstract horror, an eerie parade of not quite human faces whose expressions exude a feeling of subtle paranoia, discomfort, and distrust. Collective desperation more sustained than the piercing angst experienced by the isolated individual in the screen. The lasting influence of these works continues to powerfully resonate with viewers today, who among us can't relate to these distressing feelings? Anika Zern grew up surrounded by marvelous, unusual objects collected by her absent father, cavalry officer whom she adored. Inspired perhaps in part by her father's gifts from afar and a longing to spend more time with him, Zern developed a rich fantasy life and a vivid imagination, evidenced in her captivating otherworldly drawings and shadowy mirages of fantastical creatures, meticulously constructed out of finely rendered, obsessively repetitive shapes and lines. Also an accomplished author who wrote with cool detachment and even humor from the depths of her mental illness, which some believe to be schizophrenia, though others suggest. Zern produced most of her oeuvre while involved with the German surrealist Hans Bellmer. During her time with him, Zern began to experiment with automatic drawings and anagrams as part of her long-held interest in hidden meanings and coincidences. On October 19, 1970, after a decade of mental crisis, Zern left to her death from the balcony of the Paris apartment she had shared with Belmar. Eloise Corbaz, after working as a governess in the entourage of Kaiser Wilhelm, for whom she developed an intense and imaginary attachment, returned to Lausanne at the start of the First World War, and soon after exhibited signs of mental collapse. She was diagnosed as a schizophrenic and placed for the rest of the remainder of her life in the asylum, the Rosary, in Gimel, Switzerland. There she began making art and eventually became known simply as Aloise. Women of power and romance are the center of Eloise Corbaz's visual universe. and though she drew primarily with crayon and pencil, she would at times infuse work with stains from crushed floral petals and occasionally mix in toothpaste. The art of William Kurilek navigated the harsh realities of Depression-era farm life while exploring the sources of the artist's debilitating mental suffering. His nostalgic and apocalyptic works represent an unsettling and controversial record of global anxiety. At the time of his death, he was one of the most commercially successful artists in Canada. The Maze is a painting that Kurilek produced while a patient in Maudsley Hospital in London. Professionals at Maudsley quickly recognized the gravity of Kurilek's suffering. He was also given a room to paint in. The maze, described by the artist as a painting of the inside of my skull, can be interpreted as Kurilek's attempt to justify this privilege. As he wrote, "I had to impress the hospital staff as being a worthwhile specimen to keep on." The canvases of Catalan surrealists, Remedios Varo, are boldly enigmatic ciphers, notoriously elusive of solution. Despite their abundance of magical keys and clues painted towards the end of her life, Woman Leaving the Psychoanalyst plays upon the pseudoscience described on the portal behind the central figure. Down a well without a trace was a proper thing to do. Alberto Giacometti created fragile figures lost and exposed in wide open spaces, and is best known for his elongated, withered representations of human form, including this 1960 sculpture, Walking Man 1, which in 2010 broke the record for a work of art sold at auction when it fetched $104.3 million US dollars. Giacometti's severe figures explored the psyche and the charged space occupied by a single person. Linked to Sartre and existentialism, they are seen as metaphors for the post-war experience of doubt and alienation. Polish painter Aleksandra Waloszewska creates some of your most brutal nightmares, morbid compositions exploring oppressive themes and dark, torturous subject matter. Unfortunate events abound, and a trail of carnage, both physical and psychological, streaks, gore-soaked and deep through Waloszewska's work. Whether random or ritualistic, violence runs rampant, with characters who are either coming to brutal ends or are engaging in the brutality themselves. Sometimes it's unclear as to who is victim and who is perpetrator, and yet we can't look away. Lisetska is flaying the face of the mundane and peeling back the layers to give us a peek at what lies beneath attraction and repulsion. The works of artist and writer Giorgio de Chirico embody the contemplations of an artist profoundly concerned with dreams and questions of being, and include elements of surrealism, Italian futurism, and mid 20th century existential emptiness. This painting, rendered in somber tones by Van Gogh, of a grinning skull with a lit cigarette clenched beneath its teeth, is a bit of a juvenile joke. The work is purported to have been a humorous analogy to artistry of the human form during the artist's studies at a satirical comment on conservative academic practices. Believed that it was absurd for others to teach artistry to the artist and that one must develop art through one's own creativity and emotion. Denouncing his studies in Antwerp as boring and non-educational, Van Gogh grappled with the existential questions during his 20s while working aimlessly as a picture dealer, school teacher, bookshop clerk, and missionary. Series Existential Emptiness by Q Shiwen is a reflection of the modern woman as an individual in modern China. This body of work from one of China's foremost female photographers shifts her focus from physical to spiritual, an exploration of women's psyche. Mostly monochromatic photographs with a palette and format inspired by traditional ink painting. The scenes take place in the still landscape of ice and snow-covered mountains of northern China. Stanislaw Ignatsky Witkiewicz is remembered as an accomplished artist, esthetician, novelist, pioneering dramatist, and philosopher. His photographs are only one aspect of his art. An intense and troubled man believed that Western culture was decadent, degenerate, and undermined by the collapse of ethical, philosophical certainties. He used photography, perhaps more than other art forms, as a way to explore his anxiety. In this haunting self-portrait, the artist's dark face emerges from depths of formless darkness, yet remains trapped behind a cracked pane of shattered glass. The moody spaces of contemporary works by American artist Aaron Wiesenfeld thrum quietly with moments of melancholy, a deep sense of loneliness. Scenes are dim-lit liminality, sparse, shadowy landscapes outside of borders, where the wilderness and urban converge and paths of portals often appear. Don't know whether the characters in them will take that road or make the leap beyond, but exist perpetually at the threshold of their own personal fable in the solitude of self-reflection as they tear off into an enigmatic abyss. So that concludes part one. So yeah, we'll definitely end here. It's a bit different than I was expecting. But don't particularly care for the interludes that much. It's all very baseline. Uh, but I do like the variety. Uh, I do like the curation of this sort of collection. So I am looking forward to getting back or covering this more and her other two books. Although I guess I appreciate her curation, although I'm not the biggest fan of her writing so far. Um, but yeah, so that'll be it for today. We'll most likely be picking this back up tomorrow. I don't know if we'll get back to Tullus. I anytime I had other reasons for kind of taking the break last week, but anytime I thought about picking that back up, I just wasn't feeling very motivated. So we might not get back to Tullus, or maybe we'll see how I'm feeling about it after we finish this. But that will be all for today.